All right, and here is yet one more way to think about our negative bases and whether to include a negative in a base or not, okay? Let's still continue with negative 2 to the 4th power, okay? So there's another way, yet another way that we can think of this. If there's no parentheses around this negative 2, it means that this 4 is only acting upon this positive 2, so the base here is positive 2. If I were to ask you what is the base in this expression, you would say it's a positive 2. Very different than if we had this and I asked you what the base is, I would say the base here is going to be a negative 2 because there's a parentheses around all of it, okay? Here, the base is only a positive 2. So you could also think of it when you don't see a parentheses here, you could say it is the, in terms of just verbalizing it, you could say it is, this expression is the opposite of 2 to the 4th, okay? So if you wanted to, you could then figure out what 2 to the 4th is, all right, which happens to be 16, and then you do the opposite. And the opposite is the additive inverse, okay? So if you get a positive 16, it would be a negative 16, all right? So the opposite of 2 to the 4th is negative 16, okay? So that's another way you could think about it if it's still a little bit unsettling. But in the end, it just takes practice of doing these problems for you to feel more comfortable with them. So that's why don't we do one example here, and then that might help you get some of these down. So let's say we had negative 3 to the 2nd power. And then over here, let's say that I had negative 3 in parentheses to the 2nd power. So if I said evaluate both of these expressions, I'll let you take a second and do that, and then we'll come back. All right, so here on this left-hand side, our base is a positive 3, because this 2 is only acting upon this 3. It's not acting upon this negative. In this case, though, our base is negative 3 because it is subsumed all inside this parentheses right here, okay? So this 2 acts upon everything in here. You could think of it as maybe even like a force field, that everything inside this force field is considered a base. Here there's no force field. It only goes to this 3. All right, so if I were to expand it, this over here would look like negative times 3 times 3. You could even say, think of this as like a negative 1 times a 3 times 3, okay? Or you could say it's the opposite of 3 times 3, okay? In any of these cases, we would come out with a negative 9, all right? So this evaluates to negative 9. Over here, expanding it is a negative 3 times a negative 3. When you have two negatives multiplied against each other, it becomes a positive. So this ends up being a positive 9, okay? So this is a positive 9 and this is a negative 9. Two very different answers.